Running back is the position that now has me 5-1 with my fantasy team, and honestly, I love it. Starting off with S tier, we have Christian McCaffrey with CMC. I'm going to have him by himself. Like, I got in an argument with the other creators on the site that McCaffrey is the most valuable player in fantasy. I don't see how you could say otherwise. He's averaging 24.5 points per game. The dude is sitting with 10 targets a game so far this season. The worst, and I mean the worst McCaffrey game that you've had this year in a full PPR format is 22.7 points. We're going into week 7, and that's the floor that you have. You finally see the rushing touchdown this past week. I mean, I know the efficiency isn't there. I know he's averaging, 3.1 yards per rush attempt, but frankly, it doesn't matter. Now, going over to A tier, we are going to have Jonathan Taylor with JT. You're a little bit more reliant on the big plays. You're a little bit more reliant on the efficiency. 5.2 yards per carry. He's been phenomenal, right? You are getting the big plays so far this season. He is the league's leading rusher. If you're playing in a non-PPR format or even in a half PPR league, JT would be right there. But in reality, JT's still out here averaging, a decent 3.7 targets per game. So it's not like he's nothing as a receiver. Bijan Robinson, probably a better receiving back than Jonathan Taylor, but the offense isn't as good, while at the same time, we haven't seen the same big play appeal. And Jonathan Taylor legitimately gets everything in his backfield, where we have seen Tyler Algier steal from Bijan. Now, of course, I'm recording this before the Atlanta Falcons game. The expectations for Bijan tonight are higher, lower, 110.5 total yards, according to Underdog Fantasy. Now, going over to Devon Achane. Yes, Achane will be our new RB4. Very similar to McCaffrey. You just have a crazy high ceiling and a crazy high floor combo. Like, his worst game so far this season is 16.1 points. That's the absolute floor that you're getting. The reason for that is the receiving skill set is amazing. He's at 6.3 targets per game, which I believe is only behind McCaffrey so far this season. But he's actually giving you bigger play potential than McCaffrey will. The reason why McCaffrey is still well ahead of him is because the offense is much better, obviously, with Tua in Miami. It's gross. Now, James Cook is not giving you the same level of receiving work, and at the same time, the rushing attempts aren't there either, but James Cook is probably the most likely of any of the running backs inside the top 5 of rankings to score a touchdown any given week. You go over and you look at Underdog Fantasy at the moment, he's actually only higher, lower 89.5 total yards. So from a yardage perspective, he's always going to project worse than these other players. But because the Bills score so many points, he's just going to have more touchdown upside. But of course, if you wanted to check out any of those projections over on Underdog Fantasy, go higher 89.5, lower 89.5. You can find the link to Underdog Fantasy always in the description as well as the comment section. If you use code FLOCK when you sign up to Underdog Fantasy, you are going to be getting the best promo that they have ever had. This is why they are currently number 2 in the App Store, and that's going to be $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you're going to be getting a free Jaden Daniels pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for the Monday night game. And you'll be getting free questions for my live streams that I'm streaming every single day until Christmas, answering all your free fantasy football questions. Underdog Fantasy available in almost every state, and you can find that link in the description in the comment section. Now, Josh Jacobs is the running back 1 on my team. Josh Jacobs is actually averaging more points per game than James Cook. He's averaging more points per game than Devon Achane. He's up at 20.9 points per contest. Obviously, the rushing touchdowns are always there with Jacobs. You go back and you look at what we had in 2024. Starting in week 8 onwards, Josh Jacobs averaged almost like a touchdown and a half per game. And then you look at what we've had so far this season in 2025. He's played a total of 5 games, and he's actually given you, just from the rushing touchdown standpoint, a total of 6. So Jacobs scoring a ton of rushing TDs, 3 straight weeks with heavy involvement as a receiver, where over the past 3 weeks, he's had like 180 receiving yards. So I'm super excited about Josh Jacobs, but I will say the past 2 games that we've had him go absolutely nuclear and score 30 plus points have been against the Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals, which are some of the easiest matchups you could possibly ask for. Then Jahmyr Gibbs will be our next name. With Jahmyr Gibbs, pretty big fall in comparison to where he was previously, where we used to have him as an A-tier running back. It's just hard to get away from the fact that David Montgomery's still here. David Montgomery's still getting work. while at the same time, the receiving involvement has fallen off dramatically for Gibbs, where Gibbs is known to be a great receiving back, but he's only averaging 4.2 targets per game, which is pretty much the identical mark to what you have with Josh Jacobs so far this season. Now, moving over to C tier, Saquon Barkley will lead us off. Maybe this is still too high for Barkley. He's the running back 2 on my team, so I'm a little bit biased with this. But the issue that we've seen with Barkley hasn't exactly been the floor. The issue that we've seen is the ceiling. He has yet to have a game with 20-plus fantasy points. He's actually only averaging about 14.9 points per game so far this year. And if we go over and you look at what we've had in terms of the carries, he's had one game with more than 20 carries. The receiving involvement actually has been decent. It's been better than what you had last season for Barkley. But with the offensive line injuries that you have for Philly, the efficiency is much worse, and Barkley hasn't had the same big plays that he did a year ago. I definitely think that they can still come, which is what I'm rooting for, and which is why I'm still going to rank him ahead of Kyren Williams, who Kyren's been much better than Saquon Barkley so far this season, where Kyren Williams, back-to-back games here, has given you 16 and 31 fantasy points. And realistically, if Blake Corum were to miss any time, if this injury were to resurface, then obviously the Kyren workload would be going right back to where it was in 2024, 2023, where you did have the concern earlier this season, though, that Blake Corum was getting involved. Now, Kyren Williams typically is not going to have the same level of receiving involvement that you're going to get from some of these other running backs. Now, Ashton Ginty is averaging about 15.3 points per game so far this year, but he's been significantly better in the previous 3 weeks than what he was in the first 3. You have 12, 7.4, 6.3 for a combined average of like 9 points per game in his first 3 weeks. Whereas now over the past 3 weeks, he's averaging over 20. So this is the rookie breakout that we are wanting. This is exactly what you were looking for, especially with his receiving involvement, where over the past 2, he's had 11 targets. Now, Bucky Irving will be our next guy. Bucky Irving, this ranking is very much subject to change, where Bucky Irving was 100% healthy. He would be a B tier running back and definitely ahead of the guys like Saquon Barkley. But not only are you dealing with a foot injury, but also dealing with a shoulder injury. And if you look at the timeline for Tampa, if they don't think Bucky's 100%, I mean, this is a playoff team. They have a week 9 bye. It wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world if they were to say like, oh yeah, we'll just chill with Rachaad White and Sean Tucker through week 7 and 8, and then give Bucky Irving the additional rest week in week 9 to have him truly at 100% back from both of these injuries in week 10. Now, of course, he could play this week. We'll just have to see. And I'm going to be live streaming every single day, giving you injury updates, answering your questions, giving you rankings moves. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I mean, we are about 3,000 subscribers away from hitting 300K, which is just absolutely crazy to think about. So, of course, thank you to everybody here. But Javonte Williams had a very disappointing week in a really good matchup against the Carolina Panthers, but he is still sitting here averaging 18.5 points per game, averaging about 5 targets a game, while at the same time giving you about 15 plus carries a game. So Javonte still has a great workload, both as a receiver as well as a rusher. And with the Miles Sanders injury, he's playing more snaps than ever. Derrick Henry very easily could move up our rankings. He's only averaging 12.2 points per contest, which is significantly lower than any running back we've talked about so far. But you've had to deal with no Lamar Jackson over the past 2 weeks, making the Baltimore Ravens one of the worst offenses in the NFL. It does seem like you're going to get Lamar Jackson back in week 8. So Derrick Henry, you're about to have to go through the week 7 bye, but if you get Lamar back in week 8, then all of a sudden this is going to become a much better situation. Then Quinshon Judkins will be our next RB. I know with Judkins, a super exciting rusher, and I know a lot of people are very upset for us to have. I think we had Judkins RB13, RB14 in our rankings last week, but I want to reiterate, he's a first and second down running back in one of the league's worst offenses. The Browns are going to lose a lot of games. They're going to be in garbage time a lot of the time, and in that setup, we haven't seen them use Quinshon. So I am going to be giving the nod to the other running backs on the better teams. Now, moving over to D tier, this will be my RB3 and RB4 combo. These are the 2 guys that I have in the flex spots every weekend. Big reason why we are sitting at 5-1 right now. We have Cam Skattebo, who has been phenomenal over the past 3 weeks. In week 4 against the Chargers, Scat had 27 opportunities. In week 5 against the New Orleans Saints, he had 22 opportunities. And week 6 against the Philadelphia Eagles in a very tough matchup where I got scared. Tyrone Tracy coming back, tough matchup. Hell, I threw Cam Scatterbo on the trade block, see if anybody would give me a really nice price tag for him. They didn't. And he drops 31 fantasy points, and he's made it where there is no way that this team can look at going back to Tyrone Tracy. 0% chance. Like, the New York Giants fans finally have something to be excited about, and it is this Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo combo. So I'm going to write it out. Travis Etienne will be our next RB. With Etienne, he's averaging 14.2 points per game, which is better than Judkins, better than Henry. An issue that I have with Etienne is you're getting squeezed by 2 different running backs. LaQuint Allen on third downs, and then Byshell Tuden could still expand his role later in the season. I'm still starting him for the time being, but I am a little bit worried. Now, Breece Hall, I had as a buy low running back. I thought Breece Hall was a must-start name with no Braylon Allen. I thought that he was ready to absolutely crush. And what ends up happening? 0 targets. Justin Fields has a net total of -10 passing yards. I can't imagine how this could have been worse. Like, the dude had 22 carries and he had a total of 5.9 fantasy points. I'm assuming it's going to get better going into the future, but what you may need for this to get better is you may need to trade to Kansas City. You may need to trade to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, dropping down to E tier and below, I don't know if these guys are startable. Like, realistically, D tier and above, like running backs 1 through 17, you start them every single week, no questions asked. I don't know if we can say that with Alvin Kamara at this point. Alvin Kamara is averaging 11.5 points per game. You now have Taysom Hill stealing rushing touchdowns again, while at the same time, Kamara's only sitting with 4.3 targets per contest. David Montgomery, I don't know if he's startable. Again, with Montgomery, no receiving role, 1.7 targets per game. And you do have Jahmyr Gibbs as the clear guy. Going over and looking at Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, I mean, we'll see what he does tonight. This can be a player that turns out to be the next Woody Marks, where he gets all the hype. He looks really good. He looks like he's on a verge of a breakout. Then he slides back dramatically. I mean, his higher lower on Underdog right now is higher lower 81.5 total yards for tonight's game. It is higher lower 12.45 fantasy points. I would say in general, I'd expect him to be a really strong option as a first and second down running back. And the concern that I'm going to have is with his receiving role. Now, Kenneth Walker, I have a concern with every role imaginable. This dude's averaging 11.5 points per game and 1.5 targets per game. And Zach Charbonnet's playing more. Like, he does not look startable. Amari and Hampton, they just came through and they went out of their way to prep us and let us know, hey, he's missing more than 4 weeks. So, like, if Hampton was going to be back in week 10, if he was going to be back in week 11, I would very easily have Hampton up in D tier because I would know I could start him when he gets back. This dude may be out for 8 weeks. And I don't want to like cause panic here or anything, but for them to go out of their way and tell us like, hey, heads up, he's going to be missing for more than 4 weeks. When we're so far out, it seems like they're prepping us for the Chargers to bring in an RB. Trevion Henderson, I don't even want to talk about it. Like, realistically, we need to move Rico Dowdle ahead of him. Now, Rico Dowdle, 14.5 points per game so far this season, while doing literally nothing through the first month of the year. The first month of the year, this dude was averaging like 5 points per game. Averaging fewer than 10 carries per game, averaging about 2 targets a game. But he was the running back 1 in week 5. He was the running back 1 in week 6. Rico Dowdle looks like he is everything for this offense. My concern that I'm going to have is what ends up happening when Chuba Hubbard comes back, and does this turn into a Seattle Seahawks situation where they split the backfield 50-50, where neither running back is startable. Now, Jalen Bourne will be our next player. If we are looking at Jalen Bourne, you did have him as the lead running back alongside Kenneth Walker. Walker had the receiving role where Jalen Bourne had the majority of the work on first and second downs. Now, J.K. Dobbins is still getting the majority of work on early downs here in Denver. R.J. Harvey is still a non-factor, but Dobbins only averaging a target and a half per game so far this year. So in a full PPR format, the ceiling is capped. DeAndre Swift, we'll see what he does tonight. I'm concerned that coming out of the bye week, Kyle Monangai all of a sudden is going to get more involvement. Swift currently is higher lower 70.5 total yards for tonight's game, but the receiving involvement has been very consistent for DeAndre Swift, averaging 4.5 targets per game. Chase Brown's had consistent receiving involvement as well, but he's averaging 9.5 points per game. Like, Chase Brown's opportunities have been insane, but you're looking at a running back averaging 2.7 yards per attempt and 4.2 yards per target. So it is extremely difficult to try to make an argument for Chase Brown, even if he's getting all the volume. The offensive line's horrible, and he looks bad too. Jordan Mason, I would assume, is the lead running back in Minnesota, but the reality of the situation is Aaron Jones coming back in is going to make this a running back by committee, where Jordan Mason didn't really run away with the job straight up. Chuba Hubbard, I don't see how the Carolina Panthers look at what we had with Rico Dowdle, and then all of a sudden, they just go, you know what? We're good. Let's go back to, how could they possibly do it? I have no idea. Our next guy will be Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet continues to see more snaps than Kenneth Walker. He continues to see more opportunities and continues to do less with it. RJ Harvey just looks like he has no hope whatsoever at this point of becoming the guy. I'm hoping that he does. He's still getting more work as a receiver than J.K. Dobbins is, but the signs of this backfield turning are nowhere to be seen. Then going over to G tier, Kamani Vidal looks like he's going to be a startable running back in the short term, but there are a couple different outcomes where you end up just dropping him in a week. Like, there's a world in which you just end up getting a different running back traded here, such as Breece Hall this week. If you end up seeing Hassan Haskins lead this backfield next week, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world. Now, of course, my money's now on Vidal. It's clearly wrong last week to say it was going to be Haskins. And then also long-term, you will have Amari Hampton back in at some point. Ramondre Stevenson is the starting running back for the New England Patriots, but what's the upside? He's been the starter all year, and he's averaging 8.5 fantasy points per game. He's horrible. Tony Pollard's horrible as well. And now Tajee Spears is taking more of this backfield, and it's the worst offense in the league, or pretty damn close to it. Rachaad White must start running back every single week when you have no Bucky Irving, but it seems like Bucky Irving is going to be back sooner rather than later. Woody Marks, we'll see what he manages to do after this next week, but I don't necessarily know how we could go through and act like Woody Marks is anything of a guarantee after we just had the Texans drop like 40 points and Woody Marks was nowhere to be seen. And then we have Aaron Jones. I would assume that you probably have him as the second running back here, but you could be wrong. Jordan Mason could take the backseat to Jones. And then Miller would have been very interesting if you ended up getting a trade from the Saints, but they are saying that Kamara is going to be standing still. And then Bam Knight looks like he's the guy for the Arizona Cardinals, but he's a very bad running back, and it's a 50-50 timeshare in a bad offense. I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I feel good about these running back rankings, tiers S through D. Tiers E, F, and G, I'm probably going to completely change these 24 hours from now. I'm going to keep you updated in the live streams every single night. And of course, if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the comment section. You can find that link in the description. And if you use code FLOCK when you sign up to Underdog Fantasy, you're going to be getting $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And you're going to be getting a free Jaden Daniels pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for tonight's game. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state, and you can find that link in the description as well as the comment section. And lastly, I just spent way too much money ordering 2,500 hats. I'm going to give you all of them for free. My fiance, myself, and my brother, we're going to be spending all of the next 2 weeks boxing these hats up for y'all. We are turning the Dodd family house into a hat factory. Again, 2025 was our best year ever. I'm going to do anything that I can to give back to y'all. So if you're a paid member of flockfantasy.com, please just go to the post page, fill out the Google form. Let me know what hat you want. Let me know where to send it. I already paid for the hats. I'm going to be paying for the shipping. We're all going to be shipping them out to y'all for free. I really appreciate all of you. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I'll see you out in the live stream later tonight.